What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and we're going to be reviewing the House of Dragons. That's right, every episode, and I brought someone that's a lot smarter than me, which probably could have been anyone. I brought my brother along. You might have seen him on Park Hoppin' or his own channel, The Capable Gentleman, which I will link below. So if you're not subscribed to him, please do so. A lot of cool stuff. But anytime I had questions about Game of Thrones, this is who I called. This is why I call on the phone. I'm like, I don't understand the names. Like, who's this? Who's that? So I was like, hey, man, I'd like to review House of Dragons on this channel. Would you give me a hand with it? Because I ain't getting the names right. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm not getting the names right. I'm going to be confused. I'm going to like probably put the Lannisters here and the Starks here. And we didn't really get too much of all that. But we're just going to, I'm going to recap the show real quick. And Lee, just stop me whenever if you want to like go into a little discussion. But before I do that, overall, I didn't hate the show. I thought it was a little slow pace, but other than that, I kind of enjoyed it. It kind of felt a little bit like the Game of Thrones, like an HBO special. I didn't see anything like wrong with it or anything like that. It just felt like a Game of Thrones show to me. And this is the first episode, so we'll see where it goes. But my overall thoughts was like I kind of enjoyed it.
I did too. I really liked it. One thing you got to keep in mind, like this is really a show just about the Targaryens. They had this in the story. They have this reign where they just dominated, and it's really about how their family just kind of conquered and ruled for so many years. But I enjoyed it. There's a lot of things, a lot of potential that they can get into. I think it's going to be pretty good.
It's just sad to me though because season 8 of Game of Thrones is that horrible. I mean, it's not even a dark cloud, man. It's
Yeah.
like a total destructive force for a lot of people. I know for me, I can't speak for everyone, but it's kind of like the Last Jedi for me in Star Wars. It's like you can make as as much cool stuff as you want, like
Yeah.
before, but we all know where the road is going. Like we all know where it's heading, and so at least for me, like I said, it's just that awful taste in your mouth where it's just like, yeah, this is cool, but man,
Yeah.
it will never be as good as it can be because what they did in that final season. I don't know if you feel the same way about
No,
that.
I do. Season 8 was extremely disappointing. It just seemed like I don't know if the writers were in a rush to get on to something else. They could have really stretched that out a couple of seasons, but they tried to cram everything in, and then all of a sudden, then you have crazy Daenerys, and that's it. End. Yeah, very disappointing. I think we speak for a lot of people out there who are fans of Game of Thrones.
So right off, the show starts off with this image where the king, and please correct me if I'm wrong. Also, for those that are watching, please correct us both in the
Yeah.
comment section below. Like maybe we missed something, maybe we missed an important detail. Please throw it in. We're not that kind of people that get mad, you know. like just let us have
No,
it.
we can't
Uh,
pronounce half the names and or
yeah, I
remember
mean,
half of them. So
so in the opening scene here, the king is picking an heir, I
right,
believe.
it's King
And
Jaharis.
right. And so instead of, for some reason, he didn't pick the queen. He didn't pick a woman. So it's like they call her what do they call her? The queen with no power or something like that, or I can't remember.
Yeah, I didn't write that part down,
This
but
one here. So they thought they were gonna pick a female like the queen, but they didn't. He went and chose someone else, who is now the king.
yeah,
And so that's like the first scene. So like they're still on the throne.
right. So
And then
traditionally, it was always men like who were heirs, not women.
we get introduced to a new character, the young lady. Do you remember how to pronounce her name?
Rhaenys,
This one here. This her?
Rhaenyra, Princess
Rhaenyra, yeah.
Rhaenyra.
And she's riding a dragon.
Yeah,
It's like it just starts right off. She's like riding a dragon, doing her thing. She gets off the dragon, and I guess her head of security is like, I'm glad you're safe, or I thought I'd be dead. And so then you're starting to set up the characters here for a little bit. You're like, all
yeah,
right, this one's got, she's got the vibe of the old dragon queen from Game of Thrones, the little rebellious one. And you pick up really quick that she's like, well, my dad doesn't really care about me because I'm not a boy. I'm not a son. Like, he really wants a son. And that just seems to be the whole theme of the show, is that the king, this guy here, the king, I'm going to show this photo. He, he wants an heir. He wants a son. And the queen, his wife is pregnant and she's getting ready to give birth. And he's just like, it's going to be a boy. I know it. It's going to be a boy. And that's going to be, the next person to rule on this Iron Throne, which they updated, by the way. They kind of like, they
Yeah,
made the
I think it
Iron
looks
Throne like,
awesome. So in the books, it talks about how that throne was made with 1,000 swords of everyone that the Targaryens had conquered. In the original show, The Game of Thrones, clearly it was not 1,000 swords, and they even make reference to that in the show. But in this one, they've added a lot more all around the throne room, swords everywhere. I thought it looked awesome.
yeah, I mean, it was just like, here is I'll show a picture of that. This is not exactly from the show. This is kind of like behind the scenes a little bit, but it looked really cool how, like, you saw in the
Oh yeah,
thumbnail where it had like all the like you said, all the knives and stuff, a little bit bigger, a little bit badder. And so there's that. So the king is sitting around with his council and they're asking about different stuff that's going on in the kingdom. And then you find out that the king has given his brother, I guess his whole man, what is his, I don't, what is his duty, is in charge of, like, I guess the police system of the town.
right, right. So
So
that's Damon.
yeah,
That's
Damon.
his brother. I guess his younger brother. Now he had been. They alluded to it. He had been given other responsibilities in on the king's court. Like he was master of coin, and then something else. I'd have to like pull up. I have this book
Oh wow, look at
called The
that.
World of Ice and Fire that gives all the history. So I was going through that before and after the show, and it talks about all this stuff. But he had all these other titles, and the hand was like, he's not good at that. Change it. He's not good at that. Change it. Give him something else. And then finally, he made him the leader of the Gold Cloaks,
Yeah, the gold
the
cloaks.
police. Yeah.
So, which is, yeah, they police the town, the city. And we have us, and I might be skipping around, but this is like your first introduction and to the king's brother. He's actually sitting on the throne, which he wasn't supposed to.
Yeah. He just,
And
yeah, that's totally wrong.
the king's daughter, comes in. She comes in and she's kind of like, that's just who he is, And he gives her a present, like real piece of history from their family, and so that now you get an introduction. You're starting to get introduced to the different characters, but again, like for me, like the show was kind of slow. Let me just keep going. And so then the like I said, the queen is about to give birth, and they're getting ready to do these games, like jousting
Right.
and these games, and it's just something fun for the town. But before that, the brother goes into town with the gold cloaks, and he just slaughters tons of people that he think are like that was a
Yep.
gruesome scene. He just showed up and he's got like 2,000 men that are just all hyped up, and he's got them, and he's like, let's go into town, man. Let's do some justice. And they're all excited. They go into town and they see people are cutting off people's hands, calling them thieves.
They were
People that,
cutting off their
yeah, private parts.
their privacies. It was very
Brutal.
graphic. Very graphic.
It was brutal. And like this, they're like, this person's a murderer. And so they like cut off the, people's head. And then at the very end, you just see like wheelbarrows of like arms, dead people and stuff. And so
Yeah.
the king's court were like, hey, your brother, what's he doing, man? He can't be doing that. But there's like one guy that's kind of like, on his side. The one guy on the court that was like, well, we should have a little law and order.
Yeah.
Like we should have a little law and order. So one guy was on the brother's side. And again, I don't remember anybody's name, but there was like a struggle, especially with the hand. The hand was just like, nope, he's a problem. He's this and that. And the king's like, look, my wife's about to give birth. Okay. Like, let's just have some fun in these games. and we'll deal with all this stuff later.
Yeah.
All right. So there's that. So they go to these games, and the kings and the whole council and everyone, they're all like just sitting up front there watching. The king's brother is a jouster, and like he wants to win. The hand, his son's in it.
Yeah.
Some other people are in it as well, and like they're all just uh they're all just jousting to see who the winner can be. Now, in the middle of that, somebody goes to the king, or to the hand first, but somebody goes to the king, and it's like whispers something in his ear about an issue, about a problem, and he gets up and leaves, and he goes to his wife, who's delivering birth. And this is her right here. This is actually a picture beforehand, but this is the character, and she's getting ready to give birth. Now there's a problem. So they go to the king, and they're just like, "Hey, you're gonna have to make a tough decision here, because the baby hasn't turned,
Right. It's
so
in
she can't give
breach.
yeah, so she can't give birth. So either both of them die, or one of them dies." So that's what the doctors were telling the king. He's like, "You got to make this call." So he's sitting there, like, he makes the call. He wants his baby, his child, to live. So in a very gruesome scene,
Yeah, I
like
want
they
to talk about this scene. Go ahead.
yeah, so they take a knife, they cut open the stomach. She's bleeding all over the place. She's screaming for her life. Like, don't like basically she's saying, "I don't want this to happen." She's like, "Hey, help me." He's like, "It's okay, calm down." They tie her legs and feet up. They cut open her stomach and just scoop the baby out, and she dies. And then they're like, "Congratulations, you have a son." So he's holding the son. All this time while the games are still going on, and the king's brother, who thought was going to win, loses to another man from a different house, who I'm sure we'll see a little bit later. And
Yes.
so you wanted to talk about this scene.
So that scene was very disturbing. It was a very barbaric C-section, I guess, if you will. I mean, they didn't they alluded to it not ever been done before, but something that the maester knew about, that we could try. We're going to save one, but not the other. The whole thing, and they were extremely graphic, in my opinion, with that scene. Part of me was like, I don't know if that was all necessary. Do you think they were trying to go for the graphic content? Because I didn't
Of
think it was
course, it's
all
Game of
necessary.
Thrones. It's like
But I
Game of
mean, like,
Thrones.
how gross can we be here? Let's like really push it. And you the heir of the throne is at stake here, right? He's either going to live or die. But man, was that ever graphic? I found myself almost like turning away
Yeah,
a
that
little bit
was, that
there.
was a rough one. So
They really pushed it. I'll say that they really pushed it. Haven't seen all the barbaric fighting and stuff from the original or the Game of Thrones series. This was, man, right out of the gate with it.
and so from there, it's like whisper started going around the game. The games are done. People started talking, and then you go straight to the funeral, where you see this woman they're outside. There's a giant dragon on a hill, and you see her all like mummified. But then the camera pans down, and the child is there. No
Yeah.
word on it, no nothing. The camera just literally like pans down a little bit, and you're like, "Ah, so the boy didn't make it either."
Yeah. All that barbaric activity and it didn't do anything.
So, and we go back to the daughter that we saw earlier on. The show's going to be a lot about her. And what's her name again? I
Rhaenyra.
give us a few weeks, everyone. We're gonna get everybody's name. Um, it goes back to her, and you could tell she's just doing this thing like, I'm not a son, I'm not this, I'm not that. But they whisper into her like, "Man, your dad needs you now more than ever." And she's like, "All right." So she says something, and the dragon comes off the mountain while they're outside and sets both bodies on fire. And then we go back into the council room.
Well, she says the famous Dracarys.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a
Yeah.
callback. But you know what else was cool? It's like there's a scene with her and she's walking and they play like a little bit of the original Game of Thrones
Yeah.
music and you're just kind of like, ah, I see what they did here. It's like
Yeah, yeah, there was that. There was
and
that.
you're just like, oh, okay, all right, that's cool, that's cool. But yeah, so she says those famous words from the other original Game of Thrones from the other Tardactian. Did I say them right?
Targaryen.
Targaryen. Gosh, forgive me, people watching. Targaryens, and then from there they kind of go to another scene of the king and his court and his council, and the hand just goes, "You need, I know you're dealing with stuff, man, but you got to pick a successor like right now.
Yeah, you need an heir.
Like we need to know in case something happens to you, in case you get poisoned or something. Like you need to pick." And he's like, "My wife and kid just died." He's like, "You got to pick somebody." And so one of them brought up, they're like, "Oh, his brother, that's there." And everyone's like, "No, the guy's crazy. He's brutal. Like, we can't have him."
Yeah.
And then they were like, "Well, you could always pick your daughter and be a queen." And then they were like, "No, no
That's
women."
never been done before. It can't. You can't do that. Yeah. Did you catch just side note, did you catch while they were every time they were in the council, they put these like eggs in this plate in front of their seat. Everybody had like this little plate. When they started to talk, they had to put these little eggs or rocks or whatever they were in these little plates. And if obviously if you weren't there, one wasn't sitting there. But what I couldn't figure out what those represented or what those were.
Uh, I did not catch that.
Mm.
I did not catch that, so I wasn't sure.
They always
Um,
had like a little plate in front of them, and it wasn't food. They just set something in there, and the meeting went took place. But
I was doing my best to try to remember names, and then I got to that point where it was like, um, no names. I'm
yeah,
not sure. But just to give you guys a little, like, if you haven't seen it yet, like this is what the court looks like. This is his brother,
yeah. See
you
them,
know. So
see
there's
the
the
little
little rocks that you're talking about right
yeah, yeah,
there on the plate. That I have no idea. I have no idea. This point, the king is kind of scolding him a little bit about like being a little brutal, but
yeah,
it wasn't really like, okay, like like you're a bad person. But what happened was, so they, all right, so they need to pick an heir. So now they're at this like table, trying to figure out. He gets mad. He's like, "Look, my wife, my son just died. I'm gonna deal with this later." But then it goes back to the brother, where I guess he said, "I'm in charge" or something like that, and that was bad.
yeah,
Like he shouldn't have said that. I'm not sure exactly like what he was saying, but he said something that upset the king. So he called for him. He called for his brother and right at the throne and kind of banished him. And now we're starting to see the setup of the show because the brother's like, I should be the heir. Like, so the brother, like this, he's talking to his, to the king, and he's like, I'm your heir. I need to be the one that's next.
right, right,
And then the king's like, No, you need to go back to your wife. Like, you need to leave here. Go back to your wife." And so he kind of takes a step forward to the king, and then like his guards step in, and he just kind of like walks away. And you're kind of like, all right, here it comes. Here comes the games of throne. Like, here it comes.
yeah.
So like this, and I gotta say, man, he was like the best part of the show
Oh,
for me.
Damon is awesome. He,
Like the
yeah,
acting and everything, but yeah.
yeah. Damon is awesome. But there's a couple of little subplots to everything that really tie into what potentially could happen. If you recall, after the queen and I guess the son died, the king remained in his chambers and he was doing some like sculpting or something of the it looked like the Red Keep, like what he wanted to turn the Red Keep into. Um, and then his hand, Sir Otto Hightower, I think his name is. He calls his daughter in, and says, "Can you go spend some time with the king? He's not himself. And wear one of your mother's
Oh
dresses."
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's like, one, that's creepy, right? Send your daughter in to go make the king feel better, right? But then what's going to happen if they do end up together and they have a son, right? So
That's Game of
now
Thrones. Yeah,
the twists
they do
start.
weird
You
stuff.
can go all over the place. And if you recall that girl, his daughter, Allison, I think is her name. She's like best friends with the princess.
Yeah.
So now there's going to be a dynamic there that's going to be very interesting to watch play out.
So then we get to this scene right here. We're coming up towards the end, and this is the king. I don't know what this place is. Obviously, that's the head of a dragon with tons of candles. Calls for his daughter, and he has this powerful moment with his daughter, basically saying, you know why we're in charge is because people think that we run the dragons, but it's not true. It's such a cool line. This right here was like my favorite part of the whole show.
Yeah.
The dialogue and everything was just so powerful to me. And basically, he's like looking at her saying, "You're gonna be it. You're gonna be the next. If something happens to me, you're in charge, and we're gonna make it official right away.
Yeah.
So get ready." And then he kind of like apologizes. He's like, I wasted so much time, hoping for a son when I should have like been invested in you. And so there was that unique moment, like right here, where it's like, you know what? You were the one. You were the one that was meant to be in charge, and let's just do this thing. And she does. So they have this ceremony, which what some of the other pictures are already showing with her and all the kingdoms. I think Stark was in there too.
Yeah, there was Rickon Stark, one of the ancestors of the Starks that we know, Ned Stark and all of
They
them.
they all kneeled and
Yeah.
said, "Pledge my alliance to this queen if she, when she's in charge." And that's literally like the end of the show.
Yeah, but you notice who wasn't there?
Well, the brother,
Damon was not there.
well, he was sent away.
He couldn't be there
So
for, but see, here's the other dynamic too. There's clearly a special relationship between Damon and the princess.
yeah,
He gave her that necklace, the Valyrian steel. They had like this special bond. It kind of reminded me a little bit of like Jon Snow and Arya Stark. They had that special connection and then they went apart and whatever. But this is a little bit of a twist because of the bloodline here. But he wasn't there. He thinks he's the heir or
yeah.
should be the rightful heir, but now she's the true heir.
So he's gonna
And then
come
we
back
got,
and try to kill her,
yeah,
or
yeah, what's going to happen here? Or because the Targaryens keep the bloodlines pure for saying it clean, will he try to hook up?
try to marry her. The way the
I
way these
mean,
the way these series goes, you never know. But it's gonna be interesting to see because now we've got like tons of dragons out there apparently.
yeah.
So that'll be a thing. It's not like, we're gonna watch them, be born and go through, and we're gonna see this struggle. So, but that's where we set everything up. So now we have the Game of Thrones, House of Dragon. What are you hoping for to see?
Oh
Anything in
man,
particular?
I want to see how powerful the princess gets with her being declared the true heir. But I'm really looking forward to Damon. That character was incredible. I mean, yeah, right now he's the antagonist of the show.
Yeah.
He's the wild card. You don't know if he's a true bad guy
Well, I
or
gotta say
whatever.
this. This scene right here, there was like some average Joes, and he's like, "Hey, come on up here and touch the dragon." And then like you're like, "What is he doing?" And then all of a sudden you see the dragon again, kind of like, did the dragon eat those people? Like we don't
uh,
really know, but it wouldn't surprise me if he was like, "Go ahead, you can munch on these." He just literally brought some people up and we're like, "Hey, you want to touch the dragon?" And then the next scene, you see him flying off on a dragon, kind of chewing a little bit, but you don't know if he ate those people. But
yeah, so they didn't get graphic there, but they got graphic in childbirth, which
yeah,
was
yeah.
really which was really rough. But there is one other character you didn't mention that I predict is going to really have a key role in the stories that are yet to come, and that's the girl that he frequents at the brothel.
Oh
That
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that prostitute, or I don't think we know her name yet. If we do, I missed it, and you'll have to forgive me on that. But I think she's going to play a key part and being like an informant or something like that. And I'm curious to see how that plays out too. But
It'll be
the other
interesting.
thing about Damon, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
No,
but
no,
the
go
other
ahead.
thing about Damon that I remembered was that the king wed him to um I forget her title, but she's at the with the veil, and he's not happy about that. He's like, "Why don't you spend some time with your wife?" And he's repulsed by his wife and doesn't want to spend any time with her at all. So I don't know if that's going to play a part, and they're going to bring some other families into the mix as well.
It's gonna be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing some dragon stuff. Like, obviously, this is his dragon. The other ones have their dragon. So, and then they
It's
gave us
off.
a clip. So,
It's off to a good start because the last dragon fight that we really saw was a big disappointment. It
yeah,
had everybody doing this,
yeah, yeah.
adjusting your TV set to turn the brightness up so you could see what's going on. It was really dark and yeah, but yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. I think they're gonna. I think honestly, I think they heard the complaints and they're really putting some effort into this.
I
I'm
guess
looking
time
forward
will
to it.
tell.
Yeah.
Time will tell. Well, we're gonna be here for every episode this season here on this channel. So, if you're new here, hit that thumbs up, subscribe button. This is Lee. His channel is in the link in the in the pinned comment below if you want to check him out as well. And that's it. So we're starting off okay.
So far, so
Starting
good.
off
I'm in.
okay.
I'm
Yeah,
in.
yeah. We're gonna see where this goes. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. We'll catch you in the next episode. Woo, a lot of shows out there to review, man. A lot of shows.